Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to today's live reading of Sunset Six Stick Saves and a Honeymoon by G.K. Brady, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Join me. Chapter Moon, Honeymoon for One. Lexi Campbell stepped from the shuttle bus and took a deep breath. The place was exactly as she had pictured, right down to the lustrous open-air lobby, the swaying palms, and the sparkling blue water. So different from her home state of Colorado, yet equally breathtaking in its own way. She'd certainly hit it out of the park when she'd chosen the Sapphire Hotel as her honeymoon destination. Too bad she hadn't done as well picking the man who was supposed to be here with her. Closing her eyes, she let the sea air caress her skin and wash away the pieces of Conrad that still stuck to her like staticky bits of plastic wrapper. Miss? Lexi turned toward the deep voice that reminded her of gravel. Agitated gravel, to match the annoyance in the man's light eyes as she peered over her mirrored sunglasses. This was the same guy who'd sprawled his big frame across an entire seat and had promptly fallen asleep, not only missing out on the beautiful tropical scenery sliding past the window, but also making it impossible for anyone to sit beside him had they chosen to. Not that the bus had been full, but still. Lexi reminded herself, again, that not all men were insensitive narcissists who didn't flinch at breaking a woman's heart, and that she shouldn't be passing judgment on a stranger. A different remarkable feature about this particular man was his shirt. It was covered with magenta flamingos against an eye-popping cobalt sky. Added to the mixture were parrots and various shades of garish against electric green palm leaves. Lexi was as guilty as the next person when it came to questionable wardrobe choices, but if this guy had dressed to impress, he'd missed the mark. And that wasn't a judgment call. It was a fact. There's a bus full of people who'd like to get off and enjoy the view too, he informed her in a voice as dry as the crackers they'd pass out on the plane. But they can't because you're holding up the line. A fake smile pulled the corners of his mouth and immediately dropped into a sour expression. Clearly, she'd given this guy more benefit of the doubt than was merited. She was about to tell him where to shove his attitude when her gaze was pulled to the unhappy faces staring down at her from the shuttle's windows. Oh, God. At her own insensitivity, Lexi quickly stepped aside. It wasn't like her to be so thoughtless, though Conrad would have argued otherwise. I swear, Alexis, sometimes you go through life as if no one else existed. Funny, her ex could have been looking in a mirror when he hurled that admonishment at her. The arrogant guest stepped off the bus and shoved his glasses back up the bridge of his aquiline nose. Sun glinted off his haphazard chestnut locks, lighting them with a hint of gold. Thanks, he tossed out, though there wasn't a single note of gratitude in his voice. He breezed past her without a backward glance. Clutching her purse and carry-on in one hand and her suitcase handle in the other, she scurried toward the check-in desk as gracefully as one could with her hands full and a sandal missing its heel. Terrible Hawaiian shirt guy had beat her there. As she lined up behind him, she stumbled on her uneven shoes, falling against his muscular back before dropping to the floor like a sack of new potatoes. At least it felt muscular through the fabric of his short-sleeved kaleidoscope of tropical button-up. Of course I trip and face-plant into a human wall, she muttered to herself. He turned, slid his sunglasses down his nose, again, and blinked. Technically, I think I broke your fall. You're welcome. Lexi peered up at him. Way up. Oh, goody. A hero and a smartass. Oh, Lord, Lexi's mom would be horrified at her mouthing off to a stranger. She'd been taught better. Heck, she didn't even give her friend slip. A 29-year-old woman should have better control of her snark, but something about this guy stirred up her sassy side. He didn't seem fazed by her sharp tongue, though. Former hero, current beach bum, smartass is permanent, though. He offered her his hand, which she ignored, instead climbing to her feet with the grace of an elephant. Gathering her dignity, she apologized. I'm sorry, it's my shoe. His eyes traveled down to her feet and back up again. I lost the heel on the airport people mover. There was this older woman, you see, and she was having a hard time getting off. You know how those things sort of throw you at the end. Anyway, I tried to help her, and he grunted and turned back around, pushing his sunglasses back into place and showing her his broad back. Damn it. She always babbled when she was nervous, though why this guy made her nervous was a mystery. Ever since Conrad dumped her 7 months ago, her confidence had taken a plunge off the high dive and splatted in an all-time low. She used to be able to carry on conversations with attractive men without getting rattled. As a bridal magazine copywriter and sometimes assistant to the magazine's photography department, she'd been around some of the most beautiful humans on the planet. They were everywhere, even in Colorado. Talking to gorgeous men had been a common occurrence, and ironically, necessary mostly to put them at ease. But like everything else in her life, that part of her had been broken too. You're not broken, her bestie's voice echoed in her head. So you were fooled and fell for the wrong man. It happens. He didn't deserve to lick the dirt off your shoes. You just need to get back in the saddle and get in touch with your inner wanton woman so she can use the hell out of a man. Many men. Ha, easy for Anna to say. She had her man. Though Lexi wasn't too fond of him at the moment. He'd knocked up her best friend, which had kept her from taking Conrad's place on this all expenses paid honeymoon. The honeymoon Lexi had foolishly paid for a year ago when she'd been positive she was getting married on New Year's Eve in Colorado's cold climate. A beach getaway sounded like the perfect honeymoon, and sure, it had been a great deal because it had been non-refundable. The hotel had taken pity and bent the rules, letting her postpone the stay for a year from the time she booked it, which explained why she was vacationing in the beach resort town of Destiny, Florida, during one of the hottest months of the year. Only after Lexi had locked in the new date did Anna learn she was pregnant. There was no backing out. Miss, a clerk beckoned from the concierge desk. Apparently, she had beckoned for a while because Mr. Smartass was being checked in by a different clerk. He spared her a glance and a smirk. Looks like you're holding up the line again. Fuming, she hobbled to the counter. As she pulled out her driver's license, she repeated a mantra to stay calm and chive on. She was one step closer to a fabulous ocean view suite and a week of tropical drinks and beautiful sunsets. Nirvana was near. Life was about to take a turn in the right direction. All she had to do was sit back, relax, and let opportunity in when it knocked. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.